I'm your host, Tashina Braxton, and I am on a mission to disrupt the industry standard that fancy titles make leaders and teaching my clients how to become leaders and get their own seats at the table. Every week, I will explore a topic that impacts women of color. I will unpack the topic and provide learning so that you can feel equipped to step into leadership. I went from laid off to an entry-level job to a mid-level, multiple six figures role where I wasn't the highest on the org chart, but I was able to sit in rooms with CEOs, CFOs, and CMOs without a fancy title. As a mom of 4, a wife, and the eldest daughter of 6, I know what it means to lead in every aspect of your life and to be able to translate that into the workplace. Welcome to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. So glad to have you here. Now let's get into it. Hey y'all, so today I wanted to dive into a topic based on something that I'm seeing as a trend right now, already starting in 2025. And what that is kind of this energy or this essence that's happening around us where there has been a desire to grow in community, with community, and be in community a lot more than we are now. And one of the things that has been on my mind is, in my mind, I was thinking, wow, like I've always thought about community building and what community looks like. And the way that I've been talking about it is through networking and how to network and how to grow the people around you. And so today, what I wanted to talk about is really how do you grow your network? And I don't mean just networking for networking's sake, but how do you grow the community around you so that you can advance your career and you can earn more pay this year? So what I want to first ask you is, did you know that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? This is a quote that I'm sure you've seen everywhere or you've heard, but it is saying to us that the people that are around you are who you are like, it's who you mimic, it's who you become, the 5 people that you spend the most time with. It's a very powerful thought. It's something to really consider and think about, especially as you grow your network and get into community. One of my favorite quotes by the author Minda Hart, who is the author of the memo, she expands on this and says, success is not a solo sport. So truly, if you are looking to grow your success, you cannot do it alone. You will have to be in community. This is super important. These quotes really resonate with me because my own career didn't happen in isolation. It wasn't because I followed Destiny's Child, Anthem, independent women, and I grew up on Destiny's Child. I am a product of the 90s. Well, I'm not necessarily a product of the 90s, but I definitely lived throughout my teenage years through that era of the 90s. And independent women was like an anthem. And Destiny's Child was teaching us that we could be independent. It don't matter. And yeah, that's all good. But as you start to learn and grow, you realize that being independent does not serve you. I actually owe my progress to the mentors, the sponsors, the friends and peers who actually extended an olive branch, who believed in me and who helped me rise. And so that's why today I want to talk about how you can achieve the same kind of career success. I personally went from an entry-level role to a multiple 6-figure career in a year. From the time that I made the decision that I'm going to do something differently with my career, it took me a year and I skipped the levels. I didn't have to go through all the steps like going up a ladder. I actually went from one level up 3 to the next level. And this was all because I focused on growing my network. So let's explore how you can grow your network to advance your career and earn more pay this year. So first, let's talk about a challenge that many women of color face in corporate spaces as they try to advance in their careers. The first thing is that you are likely not getting the same access to mentors and sponsors. I know this is true because In my own career, I didn't have anybody tapping me on the shoulder and saying they would be a mentor for me or a sponsor. I didn't see people actually take action to sponsor me, which is really advocating on my behalf, speaking about me in rooms that I was not in. I didn't see people actually do this. And it took towards the end of me being a 9 to 5 where I was actually part of a program where they assigned you a sponsor. And this was for people of color, and they assigned a sponsor to each person to help them develop in their careers. But had it not been for that program, I likely would have never really had a sponsor on my own. But, and I can't really say on my own because I did take the necessary steps to be proactive, to be intentional, and to take the first step and take charge of my career and ask for those sponsors. But naturally, compared to our white peers, we aren't really being tapped on the shoulders for people to mentor or sponsor us. And you have to remember, like, a mentor is someone who's teaching you everything they know, and a sponsor actually sees you as a successor of even themselves. And so this is not something women of color often get called on to have. And so that's one of the challenges that women of color face in their career. The second thing is that development opportunities often feel out of reach. So I went through my career often wondering what was my next step in my development. So I started off at an entry-level role. I was an administrative assistant. I was the person that was probably considered at the bottom of the hierarchy, the bottom of the org chart. And it wasn't natural for my boss or anyone around me to tap me on the shoulder and say, this is how I want to develop you into the next role, whatever that next role would be. Typically, the way people view an admin is like the old school secretaries back in the day, where they're just there to file papers, make photocopies, and answer telephones. And there's something about society that doesn't see many administrative assistants past this. Now, there are exceptions, definitely. There are some organizations that are phenomenal with developing their administrative assistants, but for me, that was not the case. I actually had to find my own development opportunities, create my leadership roadmap, to create my plan, and to really go after it on my own. But if you are not someone who naturally has the skill to do that, or who is really self-led and you really, go by the opinion that, your boss is supposed to develop you, sometimes this can get hard. And sometimes it just feels good. It feels empowering, and it feels motivating for someone to say, I want to develop you. And then the third thing is, when leadership roles, projects, or promotions become available, you are not the first, or sometimes not even considered at all, to fill those positions. And so it's sometimes they already have somebody in mind. I was talking to a client recently who said that there was an opportunity for them to step into a different type of leadership role or take on more responsibility, but they already had it mapped out for the white guy in the room. And this person walked into it and knew that that was going to be the case, but it's often a challenge that we face. And when this happens, it can feel emotionally depleting, leaving you feeling really just drained and questioning your belonging or your ability to grow. And staying stuck, however, is not sustainable. You cannot stay in a stuck place for too long, because either you get content or you get I'm thinking of that research with the dogs, when the dogs kept getting hit in the cage and when they were trying to come out, where finally they just gave up. They were like, just hit me. We become like that. And so it's not sustainable to stay stuck. And it can also limit your potential and keep you from the career growth that you actually deserve and you've worked for. So this is where growing your network comes into play. This is where we combat those challenges and we grow our network so that we have the support we need to move to the next level. Now, Like I said at the beginning, growing your network is not just for the sake of networking. It is the key to unlocking the opportunities you want and moving from feeling stuck to feeling empowered and energized. And so your network is going to be that infusion of energy, that infusion of empowerment that you're going to need because, again, you have someone who can support you. I have experienced this firsthand. I focused on building authentic connections, people who saw me for the Black woman with red braids or with the natural hair, who loves the bright lipstick and who likes to be comfortable at work and still talk the way she wants to talk. I had to create those authentic connections, not the fake ones where I had to show up as a different person or a different human or have to talk a certain way or be buttoned up. I didn't want that. I really wanted someone who was going to be in community with me where I can be authentic. And I have been able to advance or create opportunities that not only advanced my career, but it also grew my income by 200%. You hear me? I was able to grow my income by 200% through these connections. And that is no exaggeration. Okay. So, how can you achieve these similar results so you can step into the career and pay that you deserve? So, as you've heard me mention many times, I started my career as an administrative assistant, and truthfully, my career wasn't invested in. One of the downsides to being in that role is that it sits at the bottom of the org chart. I mentioned this before. And it was often assumed that I didn't have enough skills or even the capacity to develop them. There's this like perception that administrative assistants don't have any education, they don't have a work or anything like that. If you looked into my background or you checked my resume, you would see that I have degrees and lots of certifications. So I was very well educated. But there was no clear path for growing my career. There was no development opportunities that were mapped out for administrative assistants, and there was no structured way to climb the ladder or transition into a new role. So as an admin, it can feel nearly impossible to identify your transferable skills or see how they align with other positions, especially if you don't have support or guidance. So in my case, though, I knew what I wanted to do. So I took my career by the reins and I created my own path. I'm sharing this with you because it is absolutely possible to move to the next level no matter how your organization perceives this role. The key, as this topic is about, the key to unlocking that growth, to getting unstuck, is your network. So this is the way that you grow your network, even if you're just starting out, even if you're an entry-level role, even if you're an introvert, and even if you are from a marginalized group. The first step in growing your network is to ask yourself why. I want you to start here because I already know what you are thinking. You want to grow your network to expose yourself to opportunities, to get access to people, to get access to roles. And while that is absolutely what will happen, it is the wrong why. You know why you should grow your network? You should grow your network so that you can build relationships that transform who you are. You should build relationships so that you create the community that you need. You create relationships so that you get the opportunity to serve. When you build relationships that help you achieve your purpose and get you to the place that you want to go in your career, it is truly moving from transactional to transformational. Transactions are done when they begin. You give to get, you do things so that you get something back. And when you put your energy out there like that, you are going to fall flat on your face. There's nothing that's going to return to you. So growing your network is important by understanding your why and building the true relationships that you need. Growing your network also demands your intention and your attention. Your intention with an I and your attention with an A. And it cannot just be a transactional act. You will give your network the attention it needs when you understand your why or your intention. So the more you can get clear on why you want to grow this network, on why you want to be in community, the better off you are. And you know what? The first answer should always be, I want to serve, right? You want to serve. And so think about that really clearly. What is your intention and how are you going to give attention to your network? The other thing that you need to understand how to do with your network or understand how to grow your network is evaluate where you are right now. Are you starting off from scratch? Are you brand new to an organization, to a team? Have you been part of a team and you just never really thought to, go out there and meet new people because you were always taught as a young girl that you keep business and pleasure separate, and you go to your desk and you put your head down and you figure out the work for the day. You do the work, you don't make a fluff, you don't rock the boat, you just do the work and you go home and hopefully somebody will notice. I say that because that was totally the advice I got when I was walking and becoming an adult and going into a career. So you need to evaluate, where are you with networking? No one should, if you work or you went to school or you have friends or family, you already have a network you can leverage. You just have to be intentional. You have to actually create a relationship where it is going to be transformational, and you have to be able to know this. Like, you have to be able to know where you're starting from. Okay. And then the third thing that I want you to do is I want you to determine, how are you going to keep the relationship going? How are you going to keep the relationship thriving? How are you going to keep in touch? I like to use this formula that I've learned from someone else called the 222 method. The 222 method is a method where it stands for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. In 2 days, you send an email. Hey, great seeing you at that event the other day. Or, hey, great talking to you and catching up last week at work, or a couple of days at work. You check in that way. Then you check in another 2 weeks, and then you check in 2 months. True story. When my son was applying, this is child number 3, when he was applying for school, for high school, he wanted to go to a private school, a prominent private school, great sports, great education, super close to our home. And we met somebody at a basketball game who actually sat on the board of the school. It was like divine timing, totally. But he sat on the board of the school, and we met him, and he sponsored us to be able to go to this school. Not only was it him, but there was another person who attended the church that my oldest son goes to, who also was a part of that same board, and they were really good friends. And this is how sponsorship works, because sponsorship works where they're going to advocate for you when you're not even there. And these two gentlemen advocated the hell out of this for us so that my son could get accepted. But then we followed up. We kept in touch. We just saw them last week at a basketball game, and we just caught up and we said, how things are going, and there's a lot of checking in, and like, this is how you create the relationship. And although we got something out of it, we still understand that relationships are important. So those are the 3 things that I want you to do as you think about growing your network. Understand your why, have a clear intention, evaluate where you are, and lastly, I want you to find ways to nurture the relationship constantly, because it is super important. Right now in our world, we need to be in community. We need people to lean on. We need people to just be with us as we navigate our career paths, wherever that may take us. And so I want you to be clear that you cannot do work alone. Success is not a solo sport. You have to actually have somebody with you. You are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so figure out who those people are, figure out how to do community with them, how to be with them, how to serve, and how to give back, and how to nurture this relationship. And you are taking the first step to truly, truly growing your career. Because I'll leave you with this. It's not always what you know, but who you know. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, follow, and leave a comment. Share with your friends, family members, and other women of color leaders. Inside my one-on-one leadership coaching program, I will help you become the leader that you want to be with work-life integration and peace. By tapping into networks, growing your visibility and confidence, you will go from untapped, unseen, and underrepresented to attracting opportunities to take your career and your life to the next level. I use an equity-centered lens in my approach so that you feel seen, safe, empowered, excited, and committed to attract, create, and land opportunities in an unconventional way. To work with me, join my email newsletter, or to learn more about me, click the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being your coach. See you next week.